Today we're going to be working on the Dakota, and we're going to be giving it a basic tune-up. I got a few different parts for it, and let's go ahead and talk about basically, I guess, the few issues I've been facing and what I got to try to resolve said issues. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we got for the Dakota. I just unboxed all of it. I tried to do it on video, but for some reason it did not register me hitting the record button. So we got a tune-up kit. This has the plug wires, distributor cap, and rotor in it, as well as a nice Bosch engine air filter, some new valve cover gaskets, and possibly most importantly, some nice NGK iridium spark plugs. Iridium spark plugs are expensive, but they don't have to be replaced as often. And I've barely ever put any money in this truck. I think it deserves some. And possibly the most important tool and or item that we're gonna need for this whole thing is this Dunkin' iced coffee. It is thin mint flavored apparently, so that mint is like barely noticeable till the very end, but it's coffee, so I like it. What is this doing? There we go. Well, let's go ahead and pop the hood and talk about the issues that we've been dealing with and why I got these things to fix it. So what are the issues that I've been running into with the Dakota? Well, nothing super major, but there has been a few things that I've noticed. First of all, I checked the gas mileage that I was getting on the last tank that I ran through the truck, and I got 12.3 miles per gallon, which is really bad and is worse than this should be getting. Realistically, it should get in the mostly city driving I'm doing with it closer to 15. I understand that it might be a little bit lower than that, but 12, that's definitely a little low. And then in addition to that, I think it's just been a little bit down on power. Nothing really crazy, but I mean, with the trailer that I have a 6.5 by 12 foot trailer with like nothing on it practically. It kind of struggles to maintain 55, and that just doesn't seem quite right. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this truck is gonna be like a towing champion or that it's by any means fast or powerful, but that's definitely a little bit extreme. So something else that we got is Seafoam. I'm gonna run some of this through the crankcase before doing an oil change again. I'm also going to put some in the intake and in the gas tank so I can hopefully clean out the fuel injectors. But we'll see. Let's take a look at the valve covers and see how difficult this is gonna be to get these off of here. I don't think it should be too bad, and I don't really know what makes the most sense to start with. I guess we're just gonna kind of start going with it. We can take a look at this distributor and the plug wires. Those are all in a nice little ball up in there. And then here is the rotor. Also, one nice thing I noticed is that this comes with labels. You can kind of see it comes with labels, as well as the little plastic clips to keep the plug wires run cleanly, I guess. And last but not least, the distributor cap. I'm not replacing the entire distributor. We'll start with this, and if for some reason it still seems like we're having issues, maybe we'll worry about replacing the rest of it later. But new distributor cap. And yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and get started and compare what we've got to what we're doing. Oh, and also, I somehow hadn't owned one up till now. I guess it's because I used my dad's tools for a long time, and then I worked at a car dealership and I had an Impact. Well, I still have the Impact, but I don't have a big enough air compressor here right now to run that. And that wouldn't work for this anyway. I got a torque wrench, just a Pittsburgh torque wrench. It's cheap, but it'll work. And I don't know how I have not had a torque wrench in my personal tools until now, but we got one, and we're gonna use this because I was going to check the valve lash on the engine. Turns out that on the 3.9 Magnum, valve lash is not adjustable. So another thing I didn't own up to this point somehow is a feeler gauge. Bought that and then realized that I wasn't gonna need it. So that was like an entire $6 gone, which is really depressing. I guess we can just start with the engine air filter. Okay, so engine air filter on this engine is super easy. It has these somewhat annoying, but albeit very simple clips. There is, I believe, 4 of them. There's 3 right here, and then there's 1 back there. So we'll just go ahead and unclip those and pop out the engine air filter, and we can just do that first. That should be easy enough. So we'll just slide over here and pop these clips off with my freezing cold hands, because it's about 30 degrees today, and that's not warm. That is stuck in there. There we go. Yeah, so filter is undeniably very, very dirty. Of course, this one's yellow, but if you compare that to the new filter, there's quite a noticeable difference. I don't really think this is gonna be any cause to the issues that we're encountering, but figured it was a good idea to replace it while we were there. Make sure that's all seated on there correctly. Which, granted, the box for this is, I think, slightly warped over time. Hence why these guys don't want to go all the way in there. All right, well, that was simple enough. And people used to say on my old videos that I didn't know what I was doing. Look at me now, replacing engine air filters. I'm basically a champion of engineering. So just taking a look at it, probably aren't gonna get to those valve cover gaskets today, just because that's gonna take a little bit more disassembly to actually get in there and make sure things are getting labeled correctly. I'll have to do that in not that long, but oh well. Another thing is that it's very possible, if this engine is full of sludge and carbon deposits, like it probably is that running Seafoam through it could potentially basically unclog a couple things that were preventing leaks because the engine is so full of sludge. That is actually kind of a thing that can happen, is sometimes engines are old enough that all of the sludge in them kind of, in a way, holds them together. By no means am I saying that that's a good thing, but sometimes desludging a really old engine is kind of the final nail in its coffin. Hopefully that won't be the case here. I think we're gonna have to just pull the distributor cap off and label all of the individual plug wires and get the spark plugs while we're in there and see what that does for us. So I'm gonna take these guys off of here and label them and see where that gets us, I suppose. So the surprise that everyone saw coming, these little label sticker sheets, these are a good idea, but they are absolutely not going to stick on the old spark plug wires. So I'm gonna go old fashioned and just use some tape and label it with a Sharpie. And I think that'll work better. So what I'm probably gonna do is unplug all of the individual spark plug wires from the plugs and label each one as I do. I don't know the actual firing order of this engine or how, like, the way the cylinders are laid out. So I'm probably just gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to make it easy for myself to remember. Another thing I really need to get is an under hood light of some form or another. That would be so handy right now, I'll tell you what. Are we gonna have to move some of this stuff out of the way? Probably. Got a 24 shallow for oil filters and stuff. It's got a little bit of play in it, but I don't know if that's because this is just a little bit worn. If it's super tight, we'll get something else. Okay, it's not bad. Yeah, that'll be fine. I didn't want to damage it if this wasn't actually the right size, which it might not be, but this isn't exactly torqued down to any crazy number, it seems like, so that's probably fine. All right, so we can lift this whole guy off of here. Ooh, I don't want to crack that line though. Is this only held in by 1 bolt right now? I think it is only held in by 1 bolt, which is probably a 15/16. No, it's probably a 10, isn't it? Well, it's probably not a 10, actually. It is a 10. I will take it. And some of you might be wondering, as many of my coworkers were, why I use hand tools so much instead of power tools. First of all, I don't have that many power tools right now. Also, I've just always used hand tools. I don't know. For stuff like this, I like it. It's fun. It does look like that was the only bolt that was holding that in. Looks like there's supposed to be a clip over here that goes into something that is broken. Cool. Again, under hood light would be a really good idea. I don't have one. Oh, and the coil. Almost didn't unplug the coil. Come on, there we go. Get this last plug out on this side, and I don't know how much room there is on the other side, if it's any better or worse. The interesting thing about this engine bay is it's not too bad. It's actually kind of surprisingly tight on the side, but because this is the 3.9 instead of the 5.2, or it could have been a 5.9 Magnum, that is, not Cummins. There's actually like a ton of space in front of the engine. It has the fan shroud right here because it has a clutch fan, but it's like the engine ends here and there's all this engine bay in front of it. And there's a lot of space in this general area too. You might be able to see slightly better on this side what I'm gonna be trying to do here. Okay, there's that one. So that last one would have been number 1. We got 2 and 3 labeled, as long as we can keep it from moving. And so this would be number 4 by my numbering system. So the thing is, like I said at the beginning, I don't know what the actual cylinder numbering order is on this engine. It could be what I have. I could also be completely wrong. It doesn't really matter as you're doing this what the numbers you use are, as long as you understand your numbering system and you can put them back in the right place. See if we can put a 5 on there. And that is a 5. Last one we got right there is number 6. And we will have gotten all of the wires, and then we can pull the distributor off, which shouldn't be too much of an issue. Okay, that's that. That should be all of them, and we should be able to get in there towards the distributor now. The distributor on this engine is way at the back. You might just be able to see where the camera is, kind of. There's the plugs right down there, they all go together. I'm gonna try really hard not to lose this because I have not lost my 10 mil, but I have lost my shallow 8 mil. And this is probably a 15/16, I assume, which is an identical sized 8 millimeters. I think I just set the Mustang car alarm off. Yep, sure did. And this is the fun with working on older vehicles. That just split right in half. That is essentially, I guess, the gasket for the throttle body. Looks like we're gonna have to get a new one of those. Older American vehicles like this are pretty easy to work on, but metric is so much simpler. Life would be much easier if everyone just used the metric system. That's not how the world works. Finally got to that bolt. Got the other side bolt off. Now we just have to get the distributor cap out of here. All right, and that is the plug wires and distributor cap out. All right, we can snip this zip tie right here. A chunk of that just flew into my face. That's amazing. Safety first. Now we just have to make sure that the right lengths of the wires go to the right spot and that they're labeled correctly. So we can probably use these labels for the new ones. So I'm gonna show you how I plan on doing that. So we just have to make sure we label each one of these wires correctly. With the new plug wires, we have to make sure we put the right length ones in the right places, which should be fairly self-explanatory regardless. Also, we might as well transfer over the wiring protector. Okay, so we know the middle one right here is the coil wire right there. Plug it in, grab the short guy right here, and label it number 1 at the end. Okay, and we got our number 2 label right here. Connect it right up. This guy's number 4. Number 4 is also a short one. Okay, so this is number 5 right here. Started confusing myself for a second looking at this and I'm like, uh-oh. last one after this is number 6. And last but not least, we can look at the wear on the bottom of these and see how we're doing. Oh yeah, for sure. You might be able to see all those little contact points in there have a pretty noticeable groove. The new does not. So that will definitely help us. So that is good. All right, so before we can put the distributor cap back on there with all of the plug wires, we should do the spark plugs, obviously. And they look kind of annoying on this engine, which should be no problem for me because I owned a Subaru, so I'm well versed in annoying engines. And by annoying engines, I mean annoying spark plug jobs. Oh, duh. Do any of you guys know what I just did there? That was slightly embarrassing. I just went, huh, it's not fitting on there right. Yeah, it's a spark plug socket. You have to push it down. You know, I've learned a lot, but sometimes I'm still an idiot. I do not like how this feels. This feels tight the entire way, which doesn't bode super well. I do not like that. It's coming out of there, but I don't like how it feels. Last thing I want to do is cross thread this thing. Well, I didn't expect this. At the point that I'm at right now, I don't really have a lot of choice other than to just kind of fully commit. Let's try the other one and see what that's like and hope it's slightly less bad. That does not feel right. I mean, I'm sure the threads are super duper gummy with all the junk that's sitting on this engine from how old it is, but I just don't want to cross thread the crap out of them either, which I don't know if there's anything I can do. I mean, the plugs need replaced. If they're gonna cross thread on the way out, then that's what they're gonna do. I would just have to run a tap back down, which is fine, except for I don't want to run metal shavings into the engine. Threads on the spark plug don't look terrible. The spark plug itself is definitely very old. The spark plug itself is definitely not in good shape. Let me look at those threads and see what we're kind of working with. See, the thing that's awful about this is because of the angle that's at, really cannot see down there at all to kind of look at those threads. This one right here, which is the first one I started taking off, that one will probably be able to look at the threads on, but I do not like how that is going so far. Well, wish me luck on that. Also, I just kicked my coffee under my toolbox. Before we put that spark plug back in, or before we put another spark plug in there, I'm gonna try to take a look at this second one once I get it out and see what it looks like. This one also is just really old, mostly. It's an AC Delco spark plug, apparently. So, compare that to the new ones that we got. Now that is significantly better. Let me look at these threads in the spark plug ports and see how bad they look, and if it looks like they just got destroyed by pulling those out. It's hilarious. I can see there's a ton of carbon buildup on the top of the piston just by looking through the spark plug port like this. I don't think the threads got ruined. I think that they're just very, very old and rusty. So I'm gonna spray some brake clean down there. Try to just kind of get any extra junk off of that. I know that means it's gonna go down onto the piston, but I don't really have a better option right now. And to be honest, if something happens with this engine, it's not the end of the world. I understand that's probably the worst logic to approach this with, but it's the logic that we're using right now. Well, definitely got some of the crap off the threads. We'll see how this new plug goes in there. Okay, that's actually threading in. Okay, whew! I think we averted that crisis a little bit because that's actually threading in there quite a bit, and it still feels pretty good. I almost wonder if when those spark plugs were put in there originally, if they were just put in and snugged just way past yield, and it might have just screwed up the threads on the plugs. The threads on the plugs look okay, but I don't know, because that tightened down like I would have expected. And it definitely did not the first time. We're gonna hit it a little bit more brake clean. I'm not gonna do too much. I don't wanna waterlog the engine. This should evaporate anyway as it's near open air. Also, this snap-on ratchet is one of the nicest ratchets I've ever seen or used in my entire life. And it also is the only actually Snap-on branded tool that I ever bought from Snap-on when I worked at the dealership. They're great tools, but man, they're expensive. Like, if you've never been like that, I guess, familiar with Snap-on or Matco or Mac Tools or any of those brands before, it's kind of insane how expensive this stuff is. It's like, think of a price that you would think is expensive for a tool, and then like literally multiply it by 4 times. It's crazy. Okay, that is snugging down much more naturally now, so I think we're okay. Thank goodness. Finishing off the coffee because that was stressful. By the way, these swivels are absolutely awesome. These are way better than your standard U-joint swivels. I would recommend these 100%. Whoever engineered this and decided that was the right place for the brake booster when the spark plugs are positioned in the orientation that they are, I hate you. I'm just kidding, I don't hate you. I just strongly dislike you. No, honestly, as annoying as this is, I do love working on stuff. I always have. I was the kid that took apart pens and random things and toys and then couldn't figure out how to put it back together. Problem that I still have nowadays. But no, it's fun. I don't really want to touch the camera screen if I don't have to, because we'll look at my hands. That's pretty bad. Luckily for us, we have a sponsorship from NGK. No, we don't. I wish. Not that I replace spark plugs on stuff that crazy often, but I will be replacing them on my Mustang here shortly. The Mustang, it runs perfectly fine, but it could probably use a tune-up. It's been a while. And oh, also, we're gonna have to replace this rotor too. I have not done that yet. Also, I'm not specifically gapping these to anything. They were supposed to come pre-gapped, so I'm just gonna trust that. This truck also doesn't get driven super crazy hard, so I'm not really worried about the spark plug performance on the ragged edge. I'm sure no matter what, it'll be a lot better than these old pieces of crap, so we're just gonna go with what NGK did from the factory. So the spark plug location is actually not as bad as I thought it would be. Depending on the angle you take, it's still not awesome. So engineer, I take it back. I don't strongly dislike you. I just think that you have questionable habits and I don't want to get to know you. Okay, these threads are a little bit more gummy still. Oh, I didn't spray brake clean on them. Well, too late. I mean, if you can't tell, I love this truck and all, but it's not exactly the finest automobile, and it's not really gonna get the finest automobile service. I'm fixing it, you know, that's good enough. A nice old plug right there. Yeah, that one's real dirty. That's the last of the spark plugs. See if you can see how disgusting that one looks. Not great. I don't think that's the worst one that we've seen, but it's not good regardless. Oh, another side note. If you're doing spark plugs and your hands end up being all gross like mine, try not to touch the electrode if you've never done this before. So these come with a little cardboard thing on them. If you can use that to your advantage and hold the spark plug with that, so you don't touch that electrode when you're putting it in, it's a good idea. Little gray piece of plastic that's sticking up right there in the middle of the screen. See it a little better like that. That is the rotor. It should literally just pop off, and we'll replace it with our new rotor that we got right here to go with the rest of our distributor. We just got to use a lot of force to get this off of here. Oh, there we go. Should just go on any given direction. And try to put it on the same orientation just because we can. Oh, actually, no, I just said that. That's completely wrong. You can see there's a little tab in there. That has to line up with there's a slot on the distributor down there, and that has to line up with it. So because I lined that up correctly,
We just pushed it down like it's supposed to be, but if you did not do that, then you could screw that up. So listen to present me, not past me. Okay, so I think we're about ready to get that distributor on there. Let's see if we can get this in here. I'm not honestly entirely sure how I got it out the first time. It was very picky, and then I just sort of got it all of a sudden. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Working on cars is fun. It's so much fun. Oh wait, oh my gosh, we did it. We got it down-ish. Okay, all right. Let's make sure we don't destroy anything, which we're actively trying to do a little bit. Which one is this one? That's 3. That does need to go that way. Okay. Okay. I have a feeling that trying to get this lined back up on everything correctly is probably gonna be a huge pain in the butt. So, we'll see. That's not right. Oh. Maybe we got it, actually. Oh, geez. Let's see what we got here. Not bad. What is this? Okay, I don't need to crush that, I'll tell you that much. Oh, and we also... Okay, rotor, please don't break. Hey, there we go. Looks like that is exactly how it's supposed to fit on there. Okay, I think that's about as tight as that's getting. I'm not entirely sure where these were routed before, but because these wires seem a bit shorter, period, I don't know that I have a lot of options for how I can route them in general. I think I have to go pretty direct. Despite the fact that we tried to line these up as good as possible, it ain't working like that. So I'm not going to put the wire protectors on these quite yet. I will probably do that later just because I might have to take this apart again. We'll see. So that's all connected. We'll see if it starts and runs correctly. If it doesn't, I will shut it off immediately. I'm a little bit worried after the confusion with the spark plug wires that they might not be hooked up correctly. So if it runs like trash, I guess that'll answer our question. Again, just pop this on top of here real quick. I don't think this is gonna affect how it runs for this short startup. We'll see if we did okay, or if we blew it up. Well, it wants to fire, but it's not doing it, which is odd. But when it's trying to fire is a little bit strange. So we know the truck's trying to fire, so obviously the distributor cap and the plug wires and everything are working. So that's good. It looks like the way that it was put in there was not correct, which is interesting because we put it in there in, I thought, the same orientation that it was in before, but it might have been flipped 180 degrees. So I have a diagram right here of the way that the plugs are supposed to go, as well as the firing order of the engine. So we're just gonna pull all of the plug wires off and use whatever makes the most sense to get to each location. So that makes sense. It's not the end of the world. We should be able to fix it. And like I said, the good news is we are getting spark. So we know that the problem is just with where the plug wires are. So I guess even if you try to line the plug wires up in the right way, if you don't get it in the correct orientation, obviously it's not going to matter. I thought it was in the right orientation by the way I remembered, but that was probably just my mistake. So we're gonna take all of these plug wires off and wire them up based off this diagram, and then that should get us in the right spot. I am nervous, but I think we follow this diagram. We should be all right. So let's try to fire this up again and not die of a heart attack. Or an explosion, one of the two. We still got nothing, so you can hear here and there it catch something.
All right, attempt number 3. That wiring diagram, the way it was laid out was kind of misleading, but after a second look at it, I think I understand what it was saying. It should fire this time. I'm much more certain it's gonna fire this time. Please fire, come on, baby. Cars are pain. Attempt, I think 4. If it works, I'll explain. If it doesn't, then I don't know, man. I don't know. So while the Dakota warms up, I'm just gonna explain what happened there and why it took me literally 4 attempts to get it started. So the way that I did it the first time, I'm not sure what I switched over that didn't work the first time and why it didn't start. I don't know. I don't know. But I tried following a wiring diagram the next 3 times. And the problem with that is that some of the wiring diagrams are incredibly misleading, and I'll point out what I'm talking about. The way they orient the distributor cap in the wiring diagram is not how it's actually oriented in the vehicle. So where it looks like one plug wire would go to, it actually needs to go to 1 or in some cases even 2 down from what it says. And the way they position it, they show you where the screws are, and they position the screws super crooked, which is not how they actually are. Where in which case, at least on my truck, it's actually positioned basically straight across at a 90-degree angle where the screws are. So I had to basically take those diagrams and rotate them like 45 degrees or something like that probably to get it right. And the truck's running good now. It's not misfiring or anything like that, so I think we're good. I'm gonna let it run for a minute and then we're gonna do the Seafoam treatment. Alright, we just did the Seafoam treatment on the truck. For whatever reason, it took way longer than it said it was going to on the can. hopefully still worked. But mostly, what I want to do is add a little bit of Seafoam to the tank and to the crankcase. So add 1 ounce per gallon. When greater cleaning concentration is needed, add 2 or more ounces per gallon. Crankcase, add 1 ounce to each quart of oil in the crankcase. So let's add this to the tank and then we'll see about adding some to the crankcase as well. So this is pretty simple. We now have this measured out, so we'll add the rest of this to the tank. So that'll be like 1 3/4 ounces per gallon. So that should do a pretty good cleaning. Then we're going to add the rest to the crankcase. That went flawlessly and definitely none of it hit the exhaust manifold. And in about 5 minutes time, we're gonna need to do some spirited driving is what it says. Might wanna be a little more careful on a vehicle that actually has good paint, but well, this is not that. Pop this guy back on here. Got some Seafoam on it, that's cool. All right, that's on there. Now we just gotta get these tabs put back in here. And I believe we are ready for our spirited drive. Well, trial and error and error and error and error has led us here, and the Dakota's running good, and I left the lights on and I should shut those off. No, but really, I mean, it's hard to tell exactly how much everything did. It did fire up immediately when I went to leave after having done the Seafoam treatment. I think it's because of the new distributor cap and plugs and wires. It just immediately just like right away. So I'm super happy about that. It seems like it's running good. It's hard to tell how much of the truck still being super slow is it being old and tired and it being a 3.9 Magnum. It only has like 170 horsepower when it's brand new, and it's not like it's a lightweight vehicle. It's like 3,700 pounds. So it's not gonna be fast, but it feels like it's driving, pulling okay. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. We still have a couple things left to do. You know, we're gonna have to do the trans pan, replace that. We also still have the valve cover gaskets to do. We're not gonna get to those today. This already took quite a while to get all of this done. And it was literally hours of footage, but we're here, we did it, it's done, and I am really, really happy about it. And I'm pretty happy with the end result, all things considered. So, you know what? Worth it, I'm happy about it, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you look forward to seeing more projects such as this. This sort of thing takes a lot more work to do than like the topic type videos and things like that. So if you don't mind, please leave a like, and I hope that you guys stick around. I sacrificed my coat for you, and you know, it was a good time. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later.